detective. Thrill me.
Thanks for joining us again. Just came out of the cinemas and we thought we'd do a quick reaction episode. We just watched Longlegs. Obviously, it's been receiving a lot of hype recently. Got in, what, is this first week?
Yep.
This is first week.
Yeah, it came out Thursday.
So we got in early. She wasn't a full house, but it was a solid session.
Yeah, unless you wanted to be going to your chiropractor after you
or your fucking neck up. So she was a pretty well attended. So that's good for horror, I guess. You know, you'd call it a horror film, I guess. So let's just, we'll just have a little bit of a general chat. Do we throw a score in? Do we, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm happy to throw a score in.
I'll throw a score in, yeah. We'll throw a bit of a score in.
Yeah, it's a quick reaction.
This is something that you need to,
We may dig deeper later on down the track.
We might give it a full episode in the future, I would have thought. So that will be interesting. But hey, okay, how did you feel? Straight out the gate,
Straight out the gate. The hype was probably a bit too much, which we were somewhat expecting. We had some discussions around that. The thing that was giving me some good hope was that, on places like Letterboxd, you can follow reviewers that are kind of more on your sort of track.
Yeah.
And most of the ones that I kind of follow that had seen it were in the 4 to 4.5 range. So I thought, okay, shit, maybe the hype's not too much. I was never really expecting to be scared all that much.
No.
Because I think it's just a product of watching a lot of these things that you don't tend to get as scared as or when you hear about a movie that's super scary, it's never really like you're coming out of the cinema going, fuck, I better tuck the covers up a bit higher tonight.
Yeah.
So that, from that perspective, it was probably a little overhyped. For me, personally, the first half of the movie, I was probably right there. I was really, really enjoying it. I thought it was really well directed. I loved how there was like a lot of sort of static shots that were just kind of almost like you were just placed there and just looking. A lot of work where the actors were kind of working towards the camera and stuff like that. And the cinematography and places like when they were in the FBI offices and stuff looked really they put a lot of effort into like the lighting and the atmosphere of the places that you were going to. And I thought Cage was solid. I know there's a bit of back and forth on Cage. I thought early on he was fucking spot on. Like it was unsettling would be the term that I would use. Once he breaks out the karaoke, I thought we started to take a bit of a dip. And, if we're going to go into light spoilers, when we start going towards the back end, I was not real. I thought it was where we ended up was a little unsatisfactory for me, given that we'd built it up as like, obviously there was some satanic elements, but I felt we were going on like a Silence of the Lambs kind of track. We were going to have just like a murder mystery, basically. And dodging that, I was a little disappointed with. I didn't love the whole kind of, it's pretty much just the devil doing it towards the end. But overall, right now, and it would probably change if we went back to it, but I'd probably say about a 3.5 after we walked out of it. Mostly on the technical aspects of it and the early part of it where I felt like we were rolling along beautifully, but also taking time with the scenes and shit.
Yeah. Like you, I thought the first probably 50 minutes, it was good. I mean, that's probably where we differ. I thought it was good. I didn't think it was great, but I felt like it was moving reasonably quickly, even though things were fairly slow on screen, but yet it was tracking. Like I realised, shit, we're 50 minutes in.
Yeah, we're still on.
So it's not like it was fucking bogged down or sluggish in that early going. So I was pretty happy with that. Cage has moments for me. He has one moment in particular that kind of fucked it up for me a little bit, and that's probably because of my reaction, which was less to say probably quite rude in the cinema, I would have said. But I agree with you. I think technically it looks good. It's very well directed, I would have said. I actually think from a directorial standpoint, it's solid, really solid. And I actually kind of like at some points it's widescreen for the older sequences. It's
almost
cropped.
Looks like a Super 8.
Yeah. I kind of like that. It's a nice stylish touch.
Yep.
But it's the end. After that, it just doesn't hang. very well at all for my feeling. And I felt there were angles they could have gone that would have been probably a little bit more satisfactory. But I think you even said to me that even if we'd have gone in another direction, it still wouldn't have been satisfactory enough.
Well, yeah, if we had gone with the flesh and blood and took the devil out of it with the characters that we still already had, it might have still just been okay.
Yeah. So I think there was probably not a lot of places to go on that front. Yeah, the back end is just has its problems. And if I was to go with, and I would agree with you, I think the hype.
Would the problems happen to involve Mummy?
Daddy! Oh, no. No.
Because I feel like giving you a reaction in the cinema, perhaps that was part of the problem.
It wasn't during that bit. It was another bit where
the hands started going up and down like Corey Feldman.
I was fucking laughing so hard I couldn't stop.
And the biggest issue with that, I felt, was that was a scene that we kept coming back to, and everything other than that
was perfectly fine.
Perfectly creepy. But
then Cage it's like someone let Cage off for a couple of takes and he lost the plot or something. I don't know, but we'll get to it a little bit further along. But if I was to go ahead now without seeing it again, I'd probably go with a 2.5. It's not bad, but it's not great. And in the way I say, and I shouldn't say this because I never listen to the hype. The hype is irrelevant to what we're doing. We're watching it and then being able to say what we thought of it. But
look,
they threw around.
That's always the case. Like I like to see what other people think of it. But if I was sitting in the movie and I thought it was a 2 stars when everyone else was saying it was a 5, I'm not going to just go, oh, I actually thought legitimately, like, the first half of the movie was fucking direction that was fucking engaging me and was developing, you know, the amount of movies we watch where we say the atmosphere was pretty well developed and whatever. I thought what was on screen early was as good as any of that sort of shit that I've seen very recently. Like,
oh yeah.
So yeah,
it's
just it just came apart at the seams a little bit. But very early on, I was thinking, fuck, we might be onto a 4+ here. But didn't quite end that way.
It didn't quite hold in that front.
No.
Yeah, the hype machine is obviously using, you know, Silence of the Lambs and Seven and things like that.
Yeah. And you always got to be, there's always, prior to the movie, you know, funnily enough, things always seem to be glowing before you go in, and then, oh shit, you know, she comes off a little bit, and then, you know, there's embargoes on certain places reviewing it and shit like that.
Yeah.
But as I said, I tend to target where I look for my reviews now from people that I have previously felt like, I'm in tune with what they like. That's where I like to, I go to that word. And so, that was the only thing that, you know, when I hear scariest movie ever or whatever, it doesn't always play out. I reckon the last time it's really held for something like that was probably Hereditary. Not necessarily scary, but I could see where the vibe and the hype for that one was.
Well, Hereditary had a similar vibe to this.
And early
on, an unsettling vibe that was there.
Early on, I thought, okay, well, the hype might be on.
Yeah. But what about Midsummer?
It sort of came.
No?
I mean, I was too busy trying to untangle what the fuck was happening.
And, okay, look.
Still doing it. Now that you mention it.
Your fucking brain's gone.
You mention it, and I kind of go, my face looks like Joey Biden for a second there. I'm just kind of looking at what are you talking about?
Your fucking brain turns into a pretzel as soon as I mention it.
Yeah.
No, okay, well, let's talk about some good things here. Direction, obviously, I felt the direction was really good.
Yes.
He took his time.
Yep. And clearly, as you said, had an
style,
had an idea
in mind.
that he wanted to go for.
And that stuff, it came off well.
Yeah.
I think that at no point was I like, Jesus Christ, it looks fucking terrible.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like, and it looks really, really good.
On the whole, there's actually not a lot of the killers around.
Yeah, that's right.
There was really only one, and it was pretty well played. But there was other parts where you just heard creaks and things like that, where you got a sense of, oh shit, what are we on? What's happening here?
Yeah.
And I think that was partly because he was very wise with
Well, the sound work.
Sound work was
You
good.
constantly kept hearing this kind of click, 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 click
Yeah,
background. And again, that shit's unsettling. People have used that type of stuff in films all the time where they try and sort of keep you on edge with those type of things. And in this case, I felt it worked. I felt it worked pretty well.
Yep.
Cage, as I said, he has his moments.
We differ a little bit here.
We differ a little bit here, but I'm not saying it's a shit-house performance.
I mean, you were straight from the jump. Before we'd even started, you were like,
I was concerned.
I'm concerned.
I was concerned
I felt we were
about
safe
Cage.
as houses. We were in safe hands with Cage.
I think maybe one hand. I don't think he had both hands.
And
around.
early on, I was ready to fucking... I was trumpeting. I'm like, Cage, safe hands, safe hands. And as soon as he started to show off his octave range,
Yeah.
I thought, fuck. Maybe we're...
Look, I will say this. Cage brings baggage to these type of roles. Like, you can't look at Cage and not see, like, his over-the-top mannerisms and shit, right, from other films. So that's what worried me, is that's what we would get.
See, the thing is, like, my take on that is he's a known quantity now. And I like, Oz Perkins is not necessarily, like, top of the pile. He's probably not in a position where he's just like, I'm doing everything how I want to do it to the money people and things like that. But I think he's probably at a level enough where he can say, right, well, lay it out there. This is how I want it. And I feel like he's at a point where he would say, I want Nick Cage for a certain reason.
Yes.
Not because, we'll just take what we can get.
No.
You know, so
I was concerned
when you
about
say
that.
Cage brings baggage,
Well, maybe
think there's
baggage
also-
isn't the right word.
Well,
he just brings a certain style to what he has.
there's a style that you know. It's a known quantity. And I think I get the sense that Oz Perkins, that's what he wanted.
Mm.
So I feel like, okay, early on, we saw a bit of that and it was working. Even down the back end, even Cage's last scenes.
Well, his
I think it
best
worked.
scene is near the end.
Yeah. So
When he's being interviewed. That is by far the best scene. Because he is dialed down somewhat.
You and I
that.
differed slightly on some of them. I thought the scene where he went into the shop with the girl, I thought that was creepy. Like he was just being weird.
Yes.
And that worked for that particular scene. So, yeah, I don't know if I agree with the whole baggage kind of. I think in this instance, it's not baggage. It's the sort of stuff we wanted for the performance. That's where I kind of sit. I mean, all the prosthetics and shit, that's probably not Cage's choice.
No, of course not. Well, maybe. I mean, Marlon Brando asked to fucking wear a fucking ice bucket on his head for an entire film.
Make me look like Mickey Rourke.
Yeah, make me look like a handsome lesbian. I'm not going to lie, he did look a little bit like Mickey Rourke. It wasn't too distracting, thank Christ, because initially they shot not many shots of his face. They actually kept a fair bit of it out, like showing like cut off at the mouth. So anything above the mouth was missing and things like that. So, look, as far as the performance goes, it's not too bad for a guy that I wouldn't have expected to play a role like this.
Yeah.
To be honest, I would have said Nicolas Cage can't do this.
Mm.
He's not capable of it in terms of his style. But I'd fair to say I'm wrong because I feel like he gets it for 90% of it. But he then just drops one fucking sequence where I just...
Yeah, fair to say it took you out of the film.
It did. So that's the bit that I was worried about.
Yeah.
Right? And that he would take me out, and unfortunately it kind of did.
I also... I mean, I had a bit of a smirk at the same time, and I was thinking, what the fuck are we doing here? Like, where did this come from?
And again... Who knows? That may
have just been
what Oz Perkins wanted. That's simply the direction that was given.
Because there was
it stinks of Cage.
No, but there was the theme of song lyrics.
Correct. He kept singing "Happy Birthday." He kept singing some other songs.
And the lyrics
wasn't like it was
were shit about I come in and I come back whenever I want.
Yeah,
all this sort of shit. So
it's not like it was out of nowhere that he was singing.
Yeah, it feels like even if he was. Just decided to turn that into a fucking song on his own. I don't know.
It still fit the brief that he seemed to be given.
Yeah.
So it's not like it was weird.
It was weird. It was fucking weird, all right.
But I mean, in terms of the characterisation, it was not out of place.
Yeah.
But it just it's like he fucked that one bit up.
But it hit like a fucking Tommy Wiseau. Oh, hey, mate.
Yeah.
Like, it was just like, fuck.
It was
where
like,
is this-
Jesus, has this
come
guy
from?
ever acted before? Like, fuck. What's going on?
I sort of, when he started doing the hands,
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay.
Because he's doing the robot.
Well, no, yeah, it was like the hands were fucking like elevators up and down, kind of, and there was a bit of in and out action. And I was thinking, oh, where are we at? And then she decided to fucking throw some
Karaoke to the mix.
karaoke at us. Yeah, look, that for me, I had a similar reaction where it was just like, just yanked me right out of the fucking, right out of the pocket.
Big props to Blair Underwood.
Yeah, he was great.
I like Blair Underwood.
Yeah.
Always liked him as an actor, really solid actor.
Yep.
He's good here as the kind of the gruff FBI lead on the case, and I liked the counterpoint of him being kind of gruff and having, you know, him being kind of lively and her being kind of sedate. You know, her character was very sedate, not one to talk a lot, not one to emote a lot, and he's doing all that. He's kind of a bit over the top. He's going out there. You got to come for a drink with us and just talk and all that sort of shit.
Well, see, that's where I thought she was actually really good. I know you probably got a different feeling, but I thought she did emote a lot. But the character was just quiet. But she was doing a lot of sort of nervous kind of twitching and kind of was constantly skittish and things like this, which I thought.
Well, again,
she
that
was-
probably
she was
plays
great.
back into where the ending was at too. What had happened to her.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, like...
What, her mum had fucking been on an episode of Hoarders.
Yeah.
There was a fucking dead cat in there somewhere.
Oh, no doubt.
Guaranteed.
No
You reckon
doubt
she was
about
flushing the crapper?
No. You know, there is definitely a point in there. There would have been definitely a time when a psychologist was like pointing to the toilet going, you cannot use that.
I think so.
And then pointing it out to everybody in the fucking local vicinity.
Yeah.
Have a look at this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Shit. Yeah, but Blair Underwood, big props. Blair Underwood.
Yeah.
It's a fairly contained group.
It is.
There's not a lot of actors.
No,
there's only a handful.
Yep.
So I guess from performances, you could probably say they were pretty capable all round. Although Mum was a bit up and down.
Yeah.
A little bit up and down.
Yep. I mean, I was fine with it. But I didn't
But
think
she
it was,
doesn't
like,
turn up
stand out.
until like an hour in. Like
Yeah.
you don't actually see her until probably a significant portion of the film is over.
Yeah.
You hear her on the phone once or twice.
Yes.
But you don't see her. So, you know, her performance is sort of condensed into the ending, which is the least successful part of the film.
Yeah.
What else would I say was not bad? What other things would grip me? I really liked the one where she saw someone outside, ran outside with her gun, left the door open, and then you see in the background that he's in there.
Yeah.
He's in the house. And you see it fleetingly.
And thank fuck we were outside and he was inside, so we couldn't hear what he was singing at
Yeah.
this point. It just appeared like
He was wandering around fucking going, yeah!
yeah. And that sort of rolled into the whole, and this is why I really enjoyed the first part. I thought we were on track for like a 7 kind of, you know, we've got the code, like the Zodiac Killer type code.
Yeah.
He gives her the leg up there with kind of
Information directly to her. It's
So-
kind of, again, ties in the Silence of the Lambs type of thing with Clarice and Hannibal.
Yeah.
You know, that. So some of that stuff was, yeah, I felt like we were on some tracks there to a serial killer type of film that would have one of those sort of endings where, you know, it's rampaging towards the end,
Yeah.
you know, where they're coming together.
And Hannibal's not a bad like comparison. The show, especially the way the show treats Will Graham, because in the show, Will Graham kind of just goes into this sort of zone when he's at a crime scene, just kind of works it out. Whereas early on, she was just saying like, you know, I don't know what it is, but it's like a tap on the shoulder.
Did they make mention of like being psychic?
They said it, but not. I don't think it was ever implied that was the case. I think it was just like
He kind of made
he
it.
couldn't tell why. He couldn't tell. Sorry, she couldn't sort of explain what it was about things that made her get it.
Yes.
And he kind of just said, I remember the one comment when he said, being psychic 50% of the time is better than 0.
Yeah, and at one point he did say something like, let's just say you're intuitive.
Yeah, yeah. So I don't think I actually took that comment as more of you know something that you're not telling us yet.
Right.
Which at that point I believe she did. So
Yeah.
I think yeah, it was more just made as a passing comment to explain away that she couldn't really say what it was about these things that put her in tune with it.
Look, she was pretty violent at times. Got a couple of nice little. It was kept to a minimum, but it was kind of that violence that I would say was more implied to a point, but
still
kind of grotesque enough. The aftermath.
But to me, still as again comes down to the direction. Equally as unsettling as just something that's going to show us everything.
Yeah, true.
Because it put us I recall the one where the father had the axe.
Yeah,
and it put us in the eyes of what we later come to see is again light spoilers if you don't want to hear them, but the eyes of one of the dolls.
Yes,
like it's essentially the doll sitting there. But as I said, prior to that, you get the sense that you've just been placed in the scene and you're just stuck, not moving anywhere. And I felt like that was a good way to go with some of them because it sort of put you in the eyes of. At times, it felt like I was sitting there thinking, was she there? Early on, when we get the scenes of Micah Monroe's character as a child with Nick Cage and we're still unraveling, I'm thinking the way they're shooting it in my head, I'm thinking, was she there?
Yeah, well, initially...
Because it looks like it's shot from like you're just sitting somewhere and not moving and just seeing some of this shit go on.
I felt too when they mentioned an accomplice that maybe it was her.
Yeah.
Like I honestly thought, yeah, well, maybe it is her because we had those callbacks. But again, that's the strength of the film.
Yeah.
That it keeps you on a little bit of an edge in the early going, so it's not quite as simple to know exactly what's happening. One other positive for me, and I said this when we came out, is we didn't come out wondering. It went along and actually explained everything. Okay?
Yeah.
Whether you like the explanation or not, that's a personal thing. But I didn't come out going, what the fuck was happening? Like, what happened?
Yeah.
So I appreciate that. And even though, like, there are moments in the early going where there are long sort of slow shots and things like that, where it sort of drags things out a little bit, and I was a little bit concerned that we weren't going to get a good understanding of what was going on. They were going to throw something at us and then we were going to be like, well, fuck, what happened there? But I think that they wrapped it up in a fairly tidy fashion.
Yep.
Which is a good thing in these type of movies. What else have you got? You got anything else you wanted to bring up?
No, just sort of generally, I felt like that was mostly the strength of things.
Okay. As far as negatives go, and again, being that we've only just seen it, it's going to be fairly short on that. But it's just it got saggy a little bit over the 50-minute mark.
Yeah.
It got bogged a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we finally find out what's happening, it just doesn't fit very well.
Yeah.
And also the unsettling part of it, it gets less unsettling.
Yes.
I feel.
I would agree.
It drops some of that.
I think, and again, spoilers for this part because we are going to talk about what happens at the very end. But the whole part when we get to it and we bring it back to the dolls.
Yeah.
Seem to be like the fucking avatar for the devil, and as soon as you put the doll in one of the houses, it causes the family to go nuts and kill each other. Like, obviously there might be some subtext and shit to dig into there, but from a story sense, I just felt like that was a little unsatisfying personally because I was really enjoying that we were going on to, and quite frankly, I felt a character like Cage on the screen for most of the time was far more scary or unsettling. Again, the scares are kind of, different for each, but I felt he was far more unsettling than just explaining it as, he was in cahoots with the devil.
And we kind of dispatch Cage before we get to the final kind of understanding.
Yes.
And I think it would have been
on,
helpful to still have him around.
When that happened, I thought, okay, we're really about to unroll a big twist here. But I didn't feel satisfied with it.
No. It wasn't a big twist.
No.
Because I think when they make mention of what they make mention of, there is only one or two possibilities max that it could possibly have been.
Yeah, correct. So I guess from this, saying that I'm disappointed that it was just kind of the devil's in the dolls and they're doing it, I'm not necessarily saying they should have just taken that out and gone with Mum.
No.
I was looking forward to them being more there that we hadn't seen or that we didn't quite see. Because even initially when we first get to Mum's place and there's stuff going on there that's, again, pretty well shot and comes across quite well. So even at that point, I was still hopeful that we got something else we got another card to play here.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, when the card was played, she wasn't a full house. It was more like a pair of sevens.
Yeah.
Or something, like
it wasn't even face cards. They didn't go face cards there. Look, it wasn't even really that big a twist, was it? Like, it's not like we were sitting there going, fuck, there must be something huge on the
as
deck.
you say, there was limited places to go.
Yes.
So I was expecting just like a twist in how Cage was operating. I was really intrigued about what the answer we were going to get to this whole idea of Cage is a serial killer, but he hasn't been in any of the houses where the killings are taking place.
Yeah, I thought that was a great idea.
Is that working?
And that
that had me by the
that baffles. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you're sitting there going, there's no fucking physical evidence of this guy being there. There's no one that says he was ever there. There's no, we've got nothing that says this guy was ever involved. Right?
Yep.
But we know he's involved somehow. That's a great way to go. If it had have played out a little more, I think, using the term in reality, Jared, I think it would have been better. But because it then goes for what I would say is lazy. The devil is lazy. We've been down the devil's route 1,000,000 times. We've seen it 1,000 times.
Yeah.
It just felt like, and I was actually a bit surprised when it popped up like that. I was kind of like, oh, is this where we're at? It just
felt like the supernatural aspect of it was actually, disappointing.
Yeah. But that was, again, I think people, it's each to their own. But, it didn't pass a lot of muster for me. Was there anything else for you, Jared, that jumped out that you didn't like?
Well,
other than Nicolas Cage fucking being on The Voice.
Yeah, warming up the vocal cords. And, I mean, the first scene when he does it in the car, which has become a meme, now I can say, I kept seeing pictures of it.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay, so we might be in for something here. When it happened, that one I was like, yeah, she's fucking loose, but that one was a little bit unsettling.
But he was kind of screaming and stuff like that. There was a bit more there was a bit more of an intensity to that.
When he busts out the dance moves.
Yeah, that's where we went fucking way off.
Whew, yeah.
Whew, that threw me.
So aside from that, not really. I think as it stands right now, the biggest thing for me was the ending.
Yeah. And I think another viewing of it, we'll sort of nitpick a little bit more, obviously, because you've got it there to actually review in more depth. Hard to do that in the cinema, hard to take notes.
This was more just a quick what we think about it and immediate kind of feelings, but it might be one to come back to. I mean, we need to give Nick a few months at least.
I've got to let that simmer. It's like, when you're wine tasting and you cleanse your palate every time. Yeah. I need to cleanse before I get back to Nicholas.
Yeah, I hear you.
But overall, they were our thoughts initially on Longlegs. Keep an eye on our Facebook page for what we're going to cover next time. But until then, take it easy, everyone, and we'll catch you later. Cheers. Find the podcast at Podomatic or on iTunes. Don't forget to rate and review. Like us on Facebook at Thrill Me Podcast Australia or contact us at thrillme, all one word, all lowercase, at iinet.net.au.